So welcome everybody to our second Saturday's annual, it's not annual, this is my first mistake, our second Saturday's monthly poetry program. We do start promptly at 11 o'clock. We were talking beforehand to some of the positive aspects of COVID. That would be an interesting title for a poem, Positive Aspects of COVID. One of them is it's created a culture shift in our poets. Our poets have developed the ability to be punctual, which was always a challenge when we used to meet in the church. So we started at 11 o'clock and we were successfully starting at just about 11 o'clock today. If you'd like to be read, we are an inclusive venue, so we give everyone an opportunity to read, but you need to put your name in chat. And I'll go over how we're going to do that a little bit later on. But rest assured, if your name is on there, we will give you an opportunity to read. We've already said, at the risk of beating a dead horse, if I was teaching a class, I have this little dead horse and I beat it every once in a while. Beating a dead horse, please keep your microphone muted. Feedback is a gift. So we do appreciate your feedback. So particularly those of you who are participating for the first time, if you have any suggestions in terms of how we could do this better, anything you liked, anything you disliked, any mistake that I made, I am capable of errors. This is the email to send it to, danielbkerr@verizon.net. And we share all feedback with Kathy Donnelly, I was going to say the father of this thing, the mother of this thing, and with Barbara as well. So your voice will be heard. Please share feedback with us. We do start at 11 o'clock. We plan to start to 12 o'clock. We will flex. If the last I looked at the list, we had almost 15 people on it. So we may have to flex. The latest we'll go is 12:30. If we have a lot of people who are going to read, then we may flex to 12:30. We'll keep you posted on that. So after I get done here with these few opening comments, I'm going to turn it over to Barbara, who will do an introduction. And then I'm going to Barbara is going to invite our featured poet, Maggie Bloomfield. We're very grateful to have Maggie with us here today. Then we will break and we will have the open read. And those of you, I will go through all the names and I'll go through them in order of three. So I'll say, okay, the next three people, be ready to read, next three people. So please, if you know you're scheduled to read, please be prepared to read. After the open read, we'll bring Maggie back for an encore. And then we will have Barbara gets the last word. She'll share any concluding reflections, and she'll also announce the next poet that we have coming in February. This is a poetry reading. You're here for poetry. This is not an opportunity for evangelization, so I'm not going to try to convert anyone. But I will proudly tell you that someone's got their mic on. Please turn it off. This program is brought to you as hosted by All Souls Church in Stony Brook, historic All Souls Church. And this church, we're here. We've been there since before the Civil War, where it's a Stanford White design building. But we're here as much for the community we serve as the people who worship there. So just going around this little picture, I think it was Rod Stewart that says every picture tells a story, or another quote was a picture says 1,000 words. I wouldn't spend 1,000 words on each picture, but some of the ways we're here for a community is every day the door is open, the church is open for prayer and reflection, and we collect food every day. And you see a little woman here, not a little woman, a woman with her thumb up in the air. She's actually from a nearby Roman Catholic church in Port Jefferson. So the food that we collect every day, we bring to the Roman Catholic church that has a very large food pantry. We also, in normal times, and we are looking for, as great as it is to connect with you all electronically, we all long for normal times. And in normal times, we will have, we do our concerts. We do the Souls Fall. We do the second Saturday's concert series live in the church. We hope to bring that back soon. We also in the church. Okay, somebody has got their mic on, so please keep your mic off. It's getting distracting. There we go. I'll turn them off again. Okay, please turn your mic off, whoever that is. Also, what we do is thank you. We do Gregorian Chant once a month as well. So you see a little picture, you come into the church, it is mystically lit. We play beautiful Gregorian chant and the music of Taizé. On the right-hand side, the bearded gentleman with the drum, that is our Native American drummer. So we do Native American drumming once a month. This is a spiritual healing experience, goes back 1,000 years. And actually the poem I'm gonna read today reflects our experience with shamanic drumming. You'll recognize the two handsome people up there in the top right. So in normal times, we do the poetry in the church, and that is the ceremonial passing of the twig from Robert to Barbara when she became Poet Laureate of Suffolk County. And then in the middle, we also do an annual event each year. We do the Souls for All Souls 5K run and 2K walk. And there's a group of poets that participate in that, led by Barbara Southard and Kathy and Sharon Doyle. And we have the Live Poets Society. So that's a group. So we do that every fall. We'll invite you all to participate in that. So without further ado, thank you for coming, and wonderful to see you all. And I'm going to turn it over to Barbara. And Barbara, once your voice is activated, I will stop sharing. Barbara, you got to turn on your mic.
There. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. It's wonderful to see all your faces. As you know, I always start with a chapbook from one of our poets. And today I chose Tom Stock's chapbook called Hidden Agenda, A Poetry Journey. It's a beautiful little book that Tom wrote. And, you know, Tom knows an awful lot about Long Island and nature, especially the Pine Barrens, because he lived out there for a long time. And I'm going to read one of Tom's poems called If I Were the Barrens. I'd wear my vernal pond with tannin brown water, wet leaves, egg masses of tiger salamanders. I'd garment myself with pine needles and oak leaves, with a shirt of bracken fern glades and blueberry bush plants. I'd have a jacket of graceful grassy meadows with a hat sporting wild turkey feathers. I'd drape myself with yellow-billed cuckoo calls, littered with scratching toadies, decorated with pine warblers. I'd wear patches of gray lichen and flaky bark and look as sappy as pitch pine trees. And that is Tom Stock, one of our local poets, with his chapbook. I think it was 2012. And now it's going to be my pleasure to introduce Maggie Bloomfield. Maggie is an award-winning poet and essayist and an Emmy-winning lyricist for Sesame Street. Her chapbooks include Trains of Thought, published by local Gems Press, and a new collection, Sleepless Nights, by Finishing Line Press. Maggie and Susan Dingle performed their one-act play Breakout as part of 2017 Long Island Fringe Festival, and Maggie's one-act play, The Dispatchment Society, was part of New York City's New Works Emerging Artists Festival in 2019. Maggie co-hosts Poetry Street South, and that's a wonderful venue, a monthly poetry venue in Southampton, New York. Please welcome Maggie Bloomfield.
Good morning, everybody. It's an honor to be reading here. I want to thank Kathy and Barbara and Dan for the invitation. I am recovering from a non-serious throat procedure, so please bear with me. My doctor assured me I'd be fine by today. My husband says I sound like Minnie Mouse. I say Marilyn Monroe. Whatever. It's been a rough week this week, as we all know. My intention with this reading is to dial it back a little bit for myself and others, though I can't make any guarantees. The first three poems I'm going to read are from my book, Sleepless Nights, published by Finishing Line. Barbara spoke about it. It's available on Amazon or directly through me. And I really thank those of you who have purchased it and read it. This first poem was written for an old friend. B. John, 1979. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. Coming through fine, Maggie. Coming through fine.
Okay. B. John does his funny duck walk across Sheridan Square. He lost his toes in the park one icy night when his soggy head told him his bench was always warm. At St. Vincent's, they took the blue stuff that was left. They already had his teeth and most of his brain, put it all in an envelope marked "No Hope." But B. John fooled him. He duck walked back downtown, and there he goes, murmuring fuzzy prayers and dreaming of comfortable shoes.
Maggie, lots of hands are clapping.
Thank you. This next poem is also about a guy named John. It's called I'm Rereading John Donne's The Flea. The flea, as metaphor, served John Donne well, a fact our history proves sure. His flea, a symbol of seductive passion, was pretty hot, subverting much of Jacobean fashion. These days, most fleas are relegated to annoyance, a ditty by Shel Silverstein, or part of Ogden's Nashery, while Donne made itchiness erotic, high art without a hint of trashery. If some romantic dude read Donne's erotic words to me, I'd probably menage a trois with Dude and Mr. Flea.
A good one.
And this poem is dedicated to my father-in-law. Fog. Vagueness, like waking or not quite waking from dreamless sleep. Memory disappears, emerges erratically. Damaged slides on an old viewfinder. Names condense, evaporate. Faces lack depth, expression. Robotic visits from another universe. Eyes, noses, generic, unidentifiable. Dampness exudes from pores, tissues, wads of cotton, chafing thighs. Speech fails with the slipping away of words. Songs from youth surface, clear as church bells, perfect melodies, harmonica mastered a lifetime ago. Recognition glances by. The peal of your laughter, a longing to return anywhere. I want to make love to you one more time. Thank you. Okay, that's it. This is so funny because I can hear my husband clapping in the other room. It's a very funny thing. Well, okay, so maybe a little anger will creep in. This poem is called Don't Even Think About It, and it's a looping poem, a form. When you arrived, it was Christmas in June. When I say Christmas in June, I mean it was an ugly sweater. When I say an ugly sweater, I mean what's worse than paying for an ugly garment you only wear once. When I say only wear once, I mean our one night stand. When I say our one night stand, I mean your whispered conversation at morning on the phone that unraveled my fantasy. When I say unraveled my fantasy, I mean I had future nights in mind. When I say future nights in mind, I mean beyond brunch. When I say brunch, I mean the one we didn't have. When I say the one we didn't have, I mean you went home to her. When I say you went home to her, I mean you left my bed empty. When I say my empty bed, I mean until the arrival of my daughter. When I say my daughter, I mean my own angel. When I say my own angel, I mean I never told you. When I say I never told you, I mean there is no you. When I say there is no you, I mean all that remains are a few faded threads. Thank you. So I have written a series of poems based on a character, sort of an archetype of, I guess, the poet. Her name is Miss Alabaster, and it's a pretty long series. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the glorious Gladys Henderson suggested that I make 3 of those poems a triptych. So I have done that, and I will read you parts 1, 2, and 3. It's called The Hues of Miss Alabaster. Miss Alabaster had a great terror of flying. Knees and elbows cracked in flight, and dresses blew over her head. Planes and birds shrieked gleefully at the surface cracks in geese's quacks. In the stratosphere, there is little to say and less to do. Nothing to eat. She swallowed cirrus, spat out cumulus, blew past the sun in the ocean of her eyes, and laughed at God and the baggage handlers. White remains her favorite color. Pearl, teal, ivory, scarlet. She is quite the world traveler, if there were some place to go. 2. When the chartreuse-shelled hickory nut fell on her head, Miss Alabaster thought, I am concussed. She traveled to Disney World in a rainbow-striped taxi, where she floated over Space Mountain and skated into Xanadu on a lilac stallion nourished on bars of guilt. Reveling in her reflection, she bangs her noggin each morning with a toasted cashew or a pale macadamia. 3. Miss Alabaster climbed a charcoal water tower and went for a swim. The licorice laps exhausted her. Burgundy otters were friendly. The creamy beavers were not. Surviving on a fluke and the kindness of goldfish, she scarfed the occasional tadpole and nurtured the indigo sea tortoise, who gave her a ride home despite the failure of his GPS. Swimming keeps her constantly at sea. Thank you. So Miss Alabaster has a darker side. And she wrote a poem to Mrs. Floyd. It's called Miss Alabaster's Fragility. I think of you, Larcinia, and mothers of Black babies, Black toddlers, teens, Black students, attorneys, judges, activists, Black laborers, artists, educators, pastors, Black doctors, Black prisoners, Black addicts, Black sons, daughters, parents, siblings, friends, lovers, the community of other in what was my pale world. I think of you, Larcinia, and all Black mothers who, waking each morning, never question, having internalized the Black and white truth, that a white knee could squeeze breath from your Black baby, that a white finger could trigger a bloody pudding of brain on any given Thursday, that your beautiful baby's final sob would be for his mama. Thank you. I wrote this poem a long time ago when it seemed like a kinder world. It's called Forgiveness. When the victim met her rapist on national television, the audience, some of whom salivated for revenge, watched captivated by the story of violent nurture he related. Mother's Kitchen concocted recipes of mixed bruises, abrasions, generous amounts of derision, humiliation, scalding a psychic parfait of distortion, a hatred for women so intense he had no choice. Seeing a face faintly resembling maternal memory, but to brutalize. He cried as he spoke. She cried. Tears flowed in the audience when the woman, now on her knees, as was he, face to face with her perpetrator, spoke and said, I wish I had been your mother. Okay, I have two more poems. This one, I'm happy to say, I believe is going to be in the Walt Whitman anthology, which Kathy Donnelly edits and all these wonderful people are part of. It's called Crossing the Bridge on the Way to an AA Meeting. He drives slowly over the blue panorama, savors the autumn air. A crackly leaf drifts through his truck window, tickles his cheek as he drives. Then a seagull crashes through the passenger's side window. Fighting for control, our driver straightens the steering wheel. The bird settles on the front seat. A sturdy wing graces his shoulder like a lover's before the sail back out to freedom. Mindful of this miracle, as unlikely as this, his second chance at life, he weeps. Okay, now I'm going to close with a poem that's called Sestina Ode to Zoom, Most of you know what a sestina is. It's a poetry form. For those of you who don't, the simplest explanation is it's a series of 6 words that repeat in a pattern. You'll catch on, or not. Sestina ode to Zoom. At the piano, I played the concert. I wore latex gloves, smiled behind a mask. It scarcely seemed to be music. Unable to slow my tempo, zoom along, nurture my classical flower. Like lilacs that cannot flower, the resonance of the concerto seems a dissonant zooming. The thud made by a glove, an odd muted music played by fingers in tiny masks. I long to rip away the masks, allow those notes to flower into glorious music, perform a true concert. I cannot do it in gloves. Let me try it in Zoom. The rectangles of Zoom offer faces with no masks, hands without gloves. They nurture Schubert's flower, raise a virtual concert into honest music. This freeing of music by the strangeness that is Zoom allows ecstatic concerts, offers artistry, unmasked, opening like spring flowers I gather with no gardening gloves. Put on your ruby velvet gloves and enter the halls of music. Let your fantasies flower, your thoughts float and zoom toward a time without masks when normal life plays like a concert. Throw off masks and gloves. Poetry, art, and music flower in the windows of Zoom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. That was absolutely wonderful. And, I multitask here, including monitoring chat to see, what people want to sign up for the reading. And some of the things that people are saying about your poetry, the words like moving, imagery, fabulous. I'm gonna copy it and I'll send it to you in an email afterwards. It's just wonderful. Feedback is a gift, and the feedback is just so incredibly positive. So thank you so much. Okay, so we're, believe it or not, right on time. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to shift gears a little bit. I'm going to share my screen, and there's always a little bit of a danger when you share your screen. I hope I get the right image up here. And what I'd like to do is to get into the ground rules. Here we are. With a nod to James, who does the annual Super Bowl reading. You'll recognize this little image of someone, James gets up there with a buddy, and they usually have a whistle and a timepiece, and sometimes they even bring out a hook to remind people that, hey, there's a limit here, 5 minutes. So I have my hook here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the names that appear in chat. Please respect your fellow poets. No poem, only one. And please don't go beyond 5 minutes, because after 5 minutes, I have both the stopwatch and the hook. So I'd hate to have to cut you off. So if you have a whole bunch of poems, pick one that's less than 5 minutes. Please wait to be called upon. Out of respect for everyone, we've captured those in the accounting training in me. When we value inventory, one of the methods of value inventory is the first in, first out. So the first name that appears is the first name that we'll call upon. And after I've gone through all the names, just in case there's someone who can't navigate chat or someone who feels inspired to read, we'll call upon you at the end. So if you don't hear your name read and we're not called upon to read, we haven't forgotten you. We'll go around the group and make sure that everyone wants to be heard has been heard. And then after the open read, we will call back Barbara to close the program. And of course, we will have a much anticipated encore by Maggie as well. So my guess is we probably are going to flex. We are going to go beyond 12 o'clock, because last time I looked, we had over almost 20 people that wanted to read. Okay. So this is the order that we're going to go in. So also, as I call upon your name, bear in mind the name that I call upon. And Don, I know now it's Don Billings, so I'm not going to call you Ruth this time, Don. But bear in mind when you are called upon, the name that you're going to be called upon. So Ashley, I think if you want to read your logged in as your daughter Emerson. So be mindful when I call, it's the people whose your name as it appears when you logged in on your computer. Okay. And we still have people joining us. Those are some poets who have not become time oriented. So, okay. So the order that we're going to go in, we're going to do it in threes. So it's going to be Nina, and then it's going to be Kathy Donnelly, and then it's going to be Barbara number 2, Barbara Bianca, not Barbara Southard. So let me get rid of the screen share here. And so Nina, if you could turn your mic on.
Okay.
And they're all yours. First reader, Nina, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Barbara, for running this. And Maggie, I love you. I love you. I love you. Fantastic. My poem I read once or twice a year in mid-January, called Mid-January. In mid-January, while the pumpkins dry, Indian corn in ruby and yellow light, the gourds rest undisturbed, their puckered flesh sanded. In this mid-season of time, before the brimming winter has arrived, October's suns, still buttered, become amber in the mind. The air clears, saunters through the window, tastes of green, lilacs from another spring, the seasons around, while I continue on to dream of warmer suns and roses in this thistled vase, sip honeyed tea, remembering. Thank you.
Very well done. Beautiful reflection on January. Okay, thank you. Okay, so now Kathy Donnelly. Kathy Donnelly. Kathy Donnelly.
Hi. I thought I would be at the end because sometimes we don't have enough time, Dan, but here it is. Just as a note, you know, you get these phone calls when you own a home to put solar panels on your roof. And I've had my home evaluated a few times and the roof is too steep. So that's it for me. But I wrote this poem, Wind is the Answer. And it goes like this. Wind blows through trees, under eaves, through screened windows, into our beds under sheets. As I pull the blanket to your chin, just yesterday dried in wind, skirts flared, exposing skin. Wind that blows out your match after the scratch to light your cigarette, smoking that. Wind that causes flames in the fire pit after lit to send sparks into the dark air as we sit and watch through hair blown askew, and you hold my hand so gently in yours, something new. Heaps of dry leaves blow into piles for miles on sides of roads and our lawn, so I'll blow them back to their original place just in case, as if I had any control. So face the fact wind is something we cannot start nor stop. It comes from somewhere, nowhere, God. The fact wind is something we cannot, and can be harnessed into energy we need, omitting greed, when it so graciously blows our way. Message heed.
Well done, Kathy. When I open the church every morning, I put up the flags. I always have to make the decision, is the wind blowing too rapidly to put up the flags? I say, gee, if we could only capture this and make electricity. So thank you, Kathy. Barbara Bianca. Barbara, you got to turn your mic on.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, how's that? The level is okay. Good morning, everyone. And that was wonderful, Maggie. And thank you, Dan. And thank you, Barbara, for these wonderful openers. And you gave me impetus to read something that I've read before. It's called Folk Singer. He'd been gone a year now. She was cried out. Enough. Took his guitar down from that wall, the wall they had painted the color of his eyes. Gingerly, reverently, she held it to her breast, sad at the dust clinging to the warm wood, clouding the mother of pearl inlay they'd watched a craftsman create. She slung the strap over her neck and oh so quietly let fingers find each string high to low, remembering chords taught by Brother Pete along the Hudson, strummed years ago at peaceful candlelight vigils, upstate college campus to inner city Head Start, at that scary protest and DuPont Circle, in Jim Crow luncheonettes and laundrettes in Alabama, where that Okie from Muskogee yelled, "Get a haircut, you draft dodger." We were singing for freedom, justice, peace. What would he think now? What should we do? In her head, she heard him answer, "Sing louder, and please get that thing tuned." Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Very timely. Always timeless. So, okay, I stand corrected. I made another error today. I welcomed James as our reader from North Carolina, and also welcomed Mike as representing North Carolina. We're being invaded by North Carolina. It's like the reemergence of General Lee here. We also have Anita from North Carolina as well. So next three poets, we're going to go in this order: James, followed by Mike, followed by our own Sharon Doyle. So James, over to you first. And remember, James, you have to unmute your mic.
Okay, there we are. We're good to go.
Yes.
Okay, many of these I wrote just listening to people now. Said, have heard many tips, should concentrate on poet's lips. Heard poem and did flips. Covet cause, continue and never pause. We'll see Santa Claus. At great country gaze, God saved us from darkest days. Him will always praise. For my God will wait at Golden Gate. From I found my fate. With him to have a date. God of all is king. Tomorrow know he will bring happy birds who sing. After inspection, terrible insurrection in each direction. Instead of on trial, hope they across the aisle be blessed with a smile. Heard Betsy DeVos was mad and had become cross. Sure is no great loss. Did awake at dawn when I waved my magic wand. Wife appeared on pond. Will need crying towel. Someone shot my wise old owl. Would say with a scowl. Thank you.
Okay, certainly very timely there, Jim. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So another North Carolina poet, Mike, over to you.
Okay, am I on?
You are on, and you are loud and clear, and you don't sound like Mickey Mouse this time.
Oh, good. Well, good morning from North Carolina. I'm going to tell you a little story, a true story in honor of the new year, back when we could gather with friends for a little friendly conversation and cards. This is what happened. It's New Year's Eve. The wind is blowing. It's cold outside, but it stopped snowing. We're at the table making toast. Thanks for the food. Thanks to the host. When all at once the lights go out. A power shortage, we've no doubt. This happened last time we were here. We carry on with New Year's cheer. With candlelight, it's just so charming. The glow of friendship so disarming. And playing cards with dear old friends, the conversation never ends. Stories told and facts leaked out. They're TMI without a doubt. Like body parts, their names, their functions, leaving little to assumptions. Cheeks turn red, a lady's blushing, hearing what her spouse is gushing. Protest spoken, but defeated, stories shared, best not repeated. Like the time, well, you know who did you know what. That story's true, and what's his name, and who's it there, bear far more than they ought to share. With secrets safe, well, within reason, they're fodder for some friendly teasing. No matter what is said or heard, we won't repeat a single word. No ands or ors or thoughts, what ifs. Friends like these are precious gifts, and friends like these are hard to find. I'm glad I found these friends of mine. So our friends who in this house do dwell get their water from a well. And when power's out, they tell us blushing, there cannot be no toilet flushing. And so we sit with legs crossed tight in candlelight through most the night, with kidneys filling by the minute. The guys held out at cards, we win it. And when the lights came on at last, we all hit the bathroom fast. As visits go, this one, I bet, is one that we won't soon forget. I share this with my friends every couple of years. It brings back great memories. Thank you for letting me share it with you.
Well done, Mike. Really appreciate it. For my wife's first college graduation, we had a house full of people, and then the cesspools overflowed, and it was amazing how quickly the house cleared out. So, Sharon, that's an interesting segue to you.
Gentling into ourselves, buried beneath awareness, dark, primitive nature lies waiting to be noticed, brought up into light, to be caressed and held, surprising fear of it into relief, able now to newly uncover needy wounds, gentling into ourselves, more awake, now embracing physical pain and mental anguish as symptoms only of dark knockings from the unconscious to become conscious, so that new and better choices will come to us while dark edges into light.
Thank you, Sharon. Always that interesting transition from darkness to light. Okay, so now the next three that we have Judy, followed by Teresa, and then followed by Bill. I think there's only one Bill in the group, so that should be pretty easy. So why don't we go to Judy? You're up next.
No, thank you. Oh, it's so good to see all of you. Happy, healthy New Year. Thank you, Maggie. I loved the Sestina. Thank you. This is a new poem called Neglected. Today, sobs stooped in remorse for those biting words, spit in anger, those flames of regret that burn at the merciless feet of midnight, those ties woven over years of friendship slashed in a fiery moment. Today cries for attention, left unnoticed for fears of tomorrow looming overhead, left wanting for memories of yesterday, overshadowing the promise of now. Today is a tuft of dust swept under the rug and stomped until it flattens to the curve of nothing, ignored, unattended, forgotten as remnants of last night's terrors. Today wants to be the smile on your face when you wake, the delight you pour into your coffee mug, songs you sing in the shower when no one can hear you. Today strives to be your focus, your lesson learned from yesterday, the seedling of tomorrow not yet sprouted, the smallest space between beats of your heart. Today needs you to need it, want it, be grateful for all it brings, both sad and glad. But today is left waiting at the bottom of your list. Long past, don't forget to take out the trash. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So the song Yesterday now has a sequel. So thank you for that. Teresa or Therese?
Hi, I'm Teresa. Thank you so much. I'm enjoying the poetry, and it's so nice to see some of my friends. This is my first time here. I've never been able to go actually to the church. So this is a poem that I wrote. I was one of the pioneers in AIDS work on Long Island, and poetry was a way that I sort of worked out a lot of the things I was feeling. So this is called In Memory of Johnny, a young playwright who died as a result of AIDS. I need a crown of gold or something shiny on my head, a rose to cover premonitions of the dead with fragrance spread within this sweltering earth and rain. I need to feel it on my head and face, an ocean spray or frost covering like winter bear retreating. Where has the familiar gone? A sinister voice chants within my bones, there is no home among this now. That which I loved and bore within my heart to speak and laugh and sing about is moving through the ocean of my life. I sail in foreign lands. I need a crown of gold, and yet desire leads me still upon familiar seas. The birthing pains, as once it did, into horizons never known, and rose where parents as the midwives stand, and rain and thirst my only guide. The frost has woven threads of gold, a basket for my heart it floats. Like hummingbird upon eternity, it carries all that I hold dear, and those who once loved me. In stilled communion, there we speak, as language never could. The silence pregnant with our love, not heard, but understood.
Thank you, Therese. That was a beautiful, beautiful
Well, thank you.
tribute to your friend, the playwright.
Thank you.
Okay, Teresa, if you could mute, and we'll turn it over to Bill. Bill? We'll give Bill a second. Bill Batcher, if you could turn your...
There we are. Okay. Can you hear me?
You're getting much better, Bill.
Okay. Every Christmas, I start to think again about the incarnation, and every time I think about it, it gets more and more mysterious. The creeds tell us that God is omniscient, and yet in Luke, we read that Jesus increased in wisdom. So thinking about that, I wrote this poem, and it's in my book, Imaginings. It's called, Did He Know That? Before the clocks of time began to tick, before the sun saw shadows on the earth, he saw his birth. But did he know his cold, unswaddled legs would shake? Hunger pangs would make his tummy hurt? Or riding a donkey to Egypt, he'd get cranky? When he made all the wonders of the world, he said he heard his father say it was good. But did he know he'd laugh rolling on the grass, giggle as pomegranate juice ran down his chin, or smile watching two young lovers take their vows? Oh, sure, the source of life could heal the sick, the blind, the lame, the deaf, and raise the dead. But long before his eyes could shed a tear, did he know when a loved one dies, he'd have an emptiness inside that nothing fills? He knew from all eternity the names of those who would leave all to follow him. But did he know the heartache he would have when friends go weary, disappoint, and tire, or simply walk away?
Thank you, Bill. Well done on so many different levels. And just having completed the 12th day of Christmas, there's a poem we often sing called Mary, Did You Know? I don't know if you're familiar with that. That's a nice compliment to that poem. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to go for another triad here. And this triad, we're going to have Karen, followed by Don Billings, followed by, I believe it is Vinita, one of our North Carolina poets. So over to Karen. Karen, you have to unmute your mic. Okay, we'll give Karen a second to unmute her mic. Karen, I can see you there. I can ask you to unmute on this end. And if Karen doesn't come in right now, we'll come back to her at the end.
I think I have it.
Karen, you are worth waiting for. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. It's good to be here and to see so many people that I haven't seen in such a long time, and beautiful poetry. This is called Rembrandt's Camera. A bonnet hides my face, tilted upward in this portrait of my 3-year-old self, seated on a bench outside my grandfather's store. My grandfather sits at one end, his white Spitz dog in between, lit against deepening shadows, an illumination worthy of an artist of light and shade. Grandpa, with his white wavy hair, looked straight ahead. On his lips, a smile about to happen, stopped short by some thought he could only reveal to himself. Rembrandt would have been proud to paint us. My grandfather, with his first American grandchild, but it was only my father taking pictures whenever he could, who pointed that box camera at the precise moment and snapped us sitting so peacefully. Thank you.
Great tribute to your dad and his photography. Thank you, really appreciated that. Okay, Don Billings.
Morning, everyone. There's been a lot of talk about rigged elections, voter fraud. The poem I'm about to do was written in 2017, but it seems kind of relevant now. Have you heard about all the voter fraud? President said there's a lot of voter fraud. Millions of illegals somehow voting. Oh, yes, there's voter fraud in our land. He said we've got to find out about all this voter fraud. Went down to register to vote. They didn't like my ID. They didn't believe it was me. My family's been here 10 generations, came on the slave ships. Said, can't let you register, don't like your ID. Sounds like some kind of voter fraud to me. They asked for my driver's license. Don't drive a car, can't afford a car. They said, get yourself down to the county. Get some proper ID. Don't forget it's free. Can't let you register, don't like your ID. Sounds like voter suppression to me. Have you heard about my polling place? My polling place, they shut it down. My new polling place, 5-hour line to vote. Feels like voter suppression to me. Sounds like political voter fraud to me. Old Mrs. Johnson stood on a long, long line, but they had a list. Said, gotta check the list. Well, your name's on the list. Says you died a while ago. Can't let you vote. Why, that would be voter fraud. Mrs. Johnson was surely alive. Have you heard about gerrymandering? Have you heard about gerrymandering? Redraw the district lines so they win. Gotta win to keep things their way. Now that's real political voter fraud. Oh, we got voter fraud all around our land. Voter suppression in our land. People got to get ID and register. Got to vote to stop this kind of voter fraud. Got to vote to stop this political voter fraud. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Certainly very timely. Okay, Vinita, am I correct that you're one of our North Carolina representatives? So Vinita, you got to come off mic and then we'll look forward to your poem.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. There you are. Welcome.
Okay, I wrote this poem because November 19th, I had a foot and ankle surgery because I was always dancing and I learned it's a tendon. So the first day or so I fell. I was going to my first appointment. I found then that night, I just wrote it, so I'm gonna share it. Got a surgery done. Then everyone knew how much fun I had before the surgery just dancing. Now it's done. A splint and don't run, just walk on one foot with the other foot on an e-scooter. Oh, it looks complicated, said one, as she saw me passing by slowly on the scooter. This pain is not done. The throbbing pain on my ankle and balancing in physical therapy with the recumbent bike. Yeah, the surgery is done, but walking slowly starts again. After my cast gets wet with sweat and I have it teared and a new one put on. I forgot the losing balance and twisting my ankle with the cast just before it's still not done. Hope I'll get a new boot and an hour of ankle movement and a month later learning to walk again. All these twists and falls told me in life, don't forget what happened, but move on. Don't fall again. You'll need to balance yourself better. Don't forget the stairways, the only door to the house to get out. Oh, that's like a stunt. They say don't dance. Oh, that was fun. Going up the stairways backwards, it's more than a stunt. So I fell, lost my balance. Now I have pokes in my cast. With stitchers, still the pain is less on that leg, but a lot more pain balancing on the scooter with one leg. As long as I laugh, it's okay. I'm moving. Just don't fall again.
As a person within the past 5 years that has fallen and broken my ankle and my wrist, I particularly appreciate that. So, okay, thank you, Vinita, and again, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, the next set of three is Gloria and Herb and Ashley. So that's Gloria and Herb and Ashley, and we'll start with Gloria. Gloria Murray.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. We can hear you fine, Gloria. You don't have your video on, but that's not necessary. That's not if you get it, that's fine. Go ahead.
How do I put my video on?
You got it. You're on.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, this is an older poem. It's from, I put it in one of my newer books that I just did. It's called Is the Book. Well, that's unimportant. This happened with carpenter ants. That's the title of the poem. Carpenter ants play with me, dodging traps, tiny bodies scuttling around them. These high-tech ants, even borax sprinkled in powdered sugar doesn't fool them as they march one by one toward the land of milk and honey. Yes, I know they are by far just a minuscule of my size. Even my foot hovering over their heads doesn't deter them as I watch for the queen to make her grand appearance. I know when she finally crawls out from the cracks of her kingdom, her enormity will take my breath away, and I have to give her due credit. She rules without a king. So I think it is safe to say the ant colony is indeed a feminist institution, and to that I must take off my hat, or at least burn my bra.
Great, Gloria. Great stuff.
Thank you.
Okay, over to Herb.
Hello. Can I be heard?
You can be heard and seen.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, life contrasts death for my wife, Lorenda. Tonight, stars, cirrus clouds, and a crescent moon are glowing through crisp air. The snowy plain before Adam and Eve extends only a moderate distance, then it leads into a dense woods. The tall trees ahead resemble sentinels watching over a dark, dead city. They sound sharp, percussive notes each time their limbs slap together. The moon-bright snow contrasts the night-dark woods. Adam and Eve's embrace contrasts the winter wind's caress. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. Well done, and please know we pray every Sunday and every Tuesday for your wife. She's still on our list. So
thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, Okay, so we've got three. The next set of three is Generalissimo. I don't think that's Generalissimo Franco. I think it's another Generalissimo. And Gladys, our poet laureate emeritus, and Dan Kerr as well. So Generalissimo, if we can go to you, please.
Yes, bear with me 1 second while I pull up this poem.
Okay.
Was 19 degrees this morning in Maine when I went to the farmer's market. It's called Because Dervishes Still Whirl on Hotter Than July Nights. I am standing still, stagnating, while the world around me is swirling and twirling. My existence is being dizzied by whirling dervishes that may only exist in my imagination by virtue of anxiety or doctor-prescribed medication. I feel I've fallen into an eddy, drowning, trying to climb out, fingers haplessly gripping water droplets so I can breathe air. But I am not in any body of water except maybe a sweaty pillow on an extremely hot, humid, unair-conditioned July night. I stand by my assessment that Stevie Wonder's Hotter Than July is undisputedly one of the greatest soul albums of all time. I am no longer 54, but 14, obsessed with Stevie's music, having tried tequila for the first time, having had 1 or 2 shots too many. My brother Paul awkwardly walks me up 2 flights of stairs to my bedroom, pushes his drunken brother onto my bed, and walks away, cackling like a Shakespearean witch. I am on my back horizontally on a vertical bed. My brain tries to instruct me how to reorient my head to my pillow. The ceiling starts spinning relentlessly like a possessed evil wheel of fortune, minus a smiling Vanna White. But this is just a memory of a middle-aged man living in self-imposed isolation in a pandemic who feels like little tornadoes follow him around, selectively sucking out any common sense or creativity left in his being from his brain through his ear sockets without lifting his substandard self into the airborne eddies. Maybe I should follow the advice of the mystic poets who say to celebrate life by dancing instead of watching others dance. Become a whirling dervish in my own right, because the dervishes understand we can understand. If we teach ourselves to whirl and twirl, we are not culturally appropriating, but we have learned by watching them how to not let life make us feel falsely dizzy. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Generalissimo. Well done. I just came back from Jamaica, and it was on a cruise, and they got up and encouraged people to dance. And I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit or it was the rum, but I put on quite a show dancing around. So thank you for that. Okay, over to Gladys. I can hear you, Gladys. Go ahead. Oh, your mic is not on, Gladys. Your camera is on, Gladys, but not your mic. So you got to look for the little microphone on the bottom. You're worth waiting for. There you go. Try it now.
Okay. My mic, by the way, is on the top, only to complicate everything. But I've done a lot of looking at my lawn for some reason in the last year. You know, I don't know why. It's just the way it is, I guess. Anyway, farewell to my perfect lawn. I believe the organic spray would work, reduce their numbers, maybe even take them all away. But I have let the lawn go to the dandelions and plantains. They wanted it all along. I have grown used to their company, no longer pluck them out by hand or lethal zapper. Instead, I stand at my window overlooking my handkerchief of green, squint my eyes and marvel, could any lawn be lovelier?
Well done, Gladys, as always. Thank you. Okay, our next reader is Dan Kerr. And you saw in the opening that we do, one of the things that we do as part of our outreach and service to the community is Native American drumming. And that's started about 5 or 6 years ago. It was an individual by the name of Peter Maniscalco, who some of you may have known. Peter Maniscalco was the one many people say was responsible for the stopping the Shoreham nuclear power plant opening. He used to go and did a silent vigil outside of there. And but he was a Native American or shamanic drummer. And this poem I wrote about 6 years ago when Peter was still alive. In fact, since the poem was about Peter, I had him review it. So I guess Peter is the co-editor of this poem. This poem, last time it was read, Peter was posthumously recognized as the Sierra Club posthumously recognized Peter after he died as the environmentalist of the year in Suffolk County. So this poem is in honor of Peter Maniscalco. And it's called The Call of the Drum. So the call of the drum, here goes. The shamanic drummer learned his craft in Indian sweat lodges in the Northeast, among the Navajos in New Mexico, and deep in the jungles of the Amazon. He prepares to bang his drum today in the church basement on the North Shore of Long Island. He tells those assembled, I'm not a priest. Think of me as an elder. I have battled depression and considered taking my own life. I have swum with Jesus Christ, connected with the spirits in Long Island Sound, and emerged at peace with the world and my place in it. An open heart, a loving mind, and the mystical sound of the drum brought me here today. He says to the group assembled, as we gather around this candle, tell me what has brought you to this drumming session. Someone says, I lost my son. Someone says, my husband died. I need to escape this debilitating pain in my back. Someone says, I mourn the loss of my daughter being a child. Someone says, my world is going through transition and I need harmony. Someone says, a shaman presided at my sister's funeral and the sound of the drum brought me peace. Someone says, I went to see my friend. He left me a poem and I found him dead in the woods. Someone else says, I find God in music, dance, and the sound of the drum. The drummer listened, and then he dimmed the lights, and he turned on a sound system. He said, it's okay to cry if this journey makes you sad. You are safe here. Go where the drum takes you. The sound of the crackling fire competed with the sounds of an owl talking to a cicada. He banged his drum. People closed their eyes, and the mystical journey began. The drum grew louder as the journey neared its end. He asked, what did you see? What did you feel on your journey? Someone said, my mother held my face in her loving hands. Someone said, I was a child again, sitting by a fire with my father, listening to the sound of the crackling wood. Someone said, I saw my son and my husband. They were there. They were dead, but they told me they were okay. Someone said, somebody tried to hurt me, but under the sound of the drum, I felt no pain. Someone said, my daughter is now a mother, and she gave me a granddaughter. In the teaching of Don Juan, Carlos Castaneda told us, the barriers between this world and others can be crossed at the hour of power. We all lead busy lives, finding time for reflection, and journeys like this are often too far and few in between. We all seek meaning and oneness with our Creator. Jews respond to the sound of the ram's horn. Christians are drawn to the sound of church bells, and Muslims respond to the call to evening prayer. Well, there is room for all in this circle, gathered around the candle and guided by the sound of the mystical drum. Thank you. Okay, so our next three, we've got three more on the list, and if you're not on the list, don't worry, we'll still give you a chance. So we're going to go Richard, and then Triumph, and then Susan Dingle. So Richard, Dr. Richard, over to you.
Well, thank you, Maggie. It was a wonderful reading, and I look forward to reading more about Miss Alabaster. So this is a pre-COVID winter poem written a number of years ago. Doc Blades. Doc Blades, he's called, wears his speed skates barefoot. He's an orthopedic surgeon, so I've heard, but wouldn't know. And they say, beware, his blades will cut you if you're slow. Ask him why he skates. He'll tell you about the long glide, strong stride, steel on ice, prowl of the pack, full moon howl, flying through the night, mantra of the blade, heat of the meat, rhythm of the motion. And I thought I heard him say as he raced away, high on ice, the stars sing to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. That was great. Okay, Triumph, over to you.
Good afternoon. I'll read a very short poem, actually, but it's deep in meaning from Louise Kluck. She's the latest U.S. Nobel Prize winner. And I want you to ponder on this. It's just 4 lines. It's titled Rye Peach. A peach in a wicker basket. There was a bowl of fruit. 50 years. Such a long walk from the door to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Triumph. Well done. Okay. Okay, over to Susan Dingle.
Thank you. Kind of sucks to follow Louise Gluck, but this is called On the 86th Day. I own grief. It suits me like a sheath and jacket created by Christian Dior in velvet and tweed. I look fabulous. My cheekbones glisten. Do you know how grief becomes you? No, but hum a few bars and I'll try it. Exactly the attitude Dior would applaud. That look back over the shoulder on the runway, shedding the jacket. The look that says, I got this.
Thank you, Susan. Well done. Okay, so I've at this point got everybody that was on the list, but I always miss somebody. Yes, I see you're logged in as Jim T, but go ahead and put yourself on your, I don't look like Jim T, but that's okay. So the person that go, Jim.
I'm Victoria Toomey. It's so nice to have the company of other poets. I missed it terribly. This is called Lover's Quarrel. Oh, mirror, you glassy-eyed witch, you always say a true friend never lies. At the beginning of our courtship, when you had a new heart, you were breezy, luscious blossoms, a garden of sinewy snapdragons bubbling over with vibrating bumblebees. All was fragrant prelude then. Why are you so hell-bent now to show the sneaky deed of time's work upon my face, the slow pull of earth upon my flesh? You must be careful, my old friend, of the sharp and silvery things that you say. We should kiss and make up. See how when I reach out to you, you reach out to me? It seems we are star-crossed lovers who cannot turn away.
Thank you. Well done, Victoria. And Ashley, did I forget you? Sorry about that. Go ahead, Ash. You're on next. You got to come off mute. There you go.
Let me just get to the top of my page. Can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Loud and clear.
Okay, great. This is called When the World Was Small, Part 1. I was an only child until I was almost 11 years old. So I spent most of my non-school time with adults, and I was painfully shy around other children. When I was in first grade, my parents and I moved from a small 2-bedroom garden apartment in Yonkers to a modest 3-bedroom home in Massapequa on Long Island. In Yonkers, I only left our apartment accompanied by my mother or father. In Massapequa, we lived on a 1/4-acre plot, and I could play outside alone. The family that lived across the street from our new house had 2 daughters, and the younger daughter was 2 grades ahead of me. On school days, I would walk to school with her and one of her friends in the morning, and I would walk home by myself each day. From 1st through 6th grade, we attended Raymond J. Lockhart Grade School. At one end of the school building was the art room and the library. In the middle were the classrooms, and at the other end of the building was a wing that included the cafeteria, the gym, and the music rooms. We had 30 minutes for lunch and then 30 minutes for recess, either outside or in the gym, depending on the weather. Sometimes some of the girls would help out the art teacher instead of going to recess. Unlike today, when schools are heavily guarded at all entrances and students often need IDs or passes to move about, back then, in the 70s, we moved more freely, and other than the friendly lunch ladies who kept the decibel level down to a dull roar, a lone adult sat at a desk near the entrance to the cafeteria wing to monitor students going in and out of the main part of the building. One day at lunchtime, I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade, one girl said she forgot her coat in the classroom, and she was able to get someone of authority to give her a key to the classroom. A couple of other girls said they wanted to help the art teacher. Hearing all of this, I saw what seemed like a chance to be somewhat social without having to say much. I went along for the walk when this small group headed out of the cafeteria wing, past the adult at the desk, and towards the classrooms and the art room at the other end of the school building. I don't remember anything specific about that walk, but I will always remember what happened next. We came to the classroom first. The girl with the key opened the door. I don't remember if she actually had forgotten her coat or not, but I remember that she then opened the doors under the sink located in the classroom. There were a few large bottles of soda under the sink from a recent school party. She took one. Then she decided to go next door to the girls' bathroom. Then she shook up the bottle and it exploded all over the bathroom. A look of surprise and confusion flowed into a half smile across her face. I don't remember my exact movements, but I remember seeing all of this. In retrospect, the lack of forethought seems astounding. If she had planned to drink the soda and toss the bottle, perhaps she could have gotten away with it. But the scope of the mess meant it was just a matter of time until this transgression was discovered. I don't remember what was said. I don't remember whether any of us went to the art room. I remember all of us being back in the cafeteria later that afternoon for an assembly. I remember seeing one of the girls from the soda incident being called out of the assembly. And a little while later, another one of the girls was called out of the assembly. I had been pretty sheltered in many ways up until that point in my life, but I only needed 2 data points to realize that I may be called out of the assembly next. It may have been only a few minutes before I was summoned, but it seemed like forever. I was called into the principal's office. He asked me what happened, and best I can remember, I retold the story that I just told you. I forgot if he told me himself or if my mother conveyed the news to me later that day. But I was told that it was known that I was a good kid, that I needed to stay away from troublemakers. A couple of years later, the younger girl who lived across the street made a point of telling my mother to keep me away from the girl with the classroom key because she was trouble. By high school, the girl with the classroom key was dead. I heard she died when someone injected her with drugs and air got into one of her veins. I still remember her, the events of that day, and the feeling I had sitting in that assembly waiting to be called to the principal's office. Thank you.
Ashley, you took, I don't know what to say, other than very well done. And thank you for sharing that. I think we all felt that story, that walk with you. So thank you much. Okay, so let me try again. Ashley, if you go on mute, please. Let me try again and see if I missed anybody. So if I missed anyone, just wave frantically and we'll get you. And I see Sandy and Hal together there. So it looks more like Sandy than Hal. I don't want to jump to conclusions, but go ahead, Sandy.
Just me. I didn't sign on, but I have something written before this last week. 2020, like even Stephen, seemed a reasonable year in its offing, but what ensued infused our psyches ever since. In the beginning, warm and giving, Florida offered pools and beaches, moonlight reaches. Our loved ones visited. Together we explored new menus. First week of March, it dropped to phone calls, snail mail, no theater, no films, hubbubs of clubs, exercise classes, sports played for the masses. Dates with an old friend came to an end. Be it Florida, New York, California, Texas, Minnesota, the girth and worth of Mother Earth, COVID-19 pandemic. To add to the spice, roll of life's dice, politics emerged absurd. November's voting, questionable quoting, erupted, corrupted our peaceable kingdoms, ebbing and flowing with rants and rages affecting all ages. However, lest we despair, in this same year, scientists conceived a new vaccine to immunize, quell the swell of illness, breath of death, and with its distribution, serve a contribution to the health of all peoples. 2021, we greet you, meet you with open hearts.
Thank you, Sandy, reminding us all how much we're looking forward to a better 2021. So I just got a chat message that poor poet number 2 doesn't have a camera, and we don't want poor poet number 2 to be left out. So poor poet number 2, if you want to turn your mic on, the floor is yours. Okay, poor poet, I can see that your mic is on. We'll give you a second. Could be your mic is on, but you may not have it turned on your machine. You may want to increase the volume a little bit. We'll wait a second for you. Okay, poor poet. Okay, so we'll come back to the poor poet. Let me check us. Anyone else? Anyone else waving? Okay, so poor poet, we'll give you one more chance. And if you can make it, fine. And if not, I'll, at this particular point in the program, we'll call back Maggie. So Maggie, are you set to go? You can turn your mic on, please. Maggie, you back?
I am back.
Okay.
Back, yes.
Let's just give one more check to the poor poet. So poor poet, are you ready? Okay, poor poet, let the record show we tried. Maggie, back for an encore.
Thank you so much. This has been so wonderful, and everybody's work was so great. It's so great to be part of a poetry community. And I want to remind everybody about Poetry Street on the Road, which is the new poetry street that meets the last Saturday of every month from 4 to 6. There will be a flyer circulating. Our features in January are Gladys Henderson, Nina Yavel, and Travis Madison. And we're, of course, an open mic. So you're all invited. The poem that I will close with, along with wishing you all a better 2021. Can't say it's got off to a great start, but it's going to get better. This poem is called Lying on the Beach on a Starry Night. It's a sonnet. An errant star trails sparks through velvet skies, swathing a lustrous path through ocean's night. Cool sand, soft cushion.
Maggie, you're muted.
Did you hear what I had to say before?
Maggie, I think you have to start the poem over because you got muted in the middle.
Oh, not sure how that happened. Okay. Lying on the beach on a starry night. An errant star trails sparks through velvet skies, swathing a lustrous path through ocean's night. Cool sand, soft cushion for my weary eyes to rest and follow its ephemeral flight. I long to fly that stratospheric course, to gaze upon myself light years below, beside torrential pewter force, my speck, devoid of clear trajectory or glow. Oh, comets, planets, meteors, connect, collide in fire and fury as you fly. Throw sparks of immortality, protect no more God's secret, how to never die. The ebb and flow that carries all to sea will capture shooting stars, the world, and me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maggie. That was a wonderful, wonderful encore. So, okay, thank you, Maggie. And let me call back to our poet laureate host, Barbara. Barbara Southern, you want to come off mute and close the program?
Well, this was very powerful, wasn't it? We all want to thank Maggie for her wonderful poems and for every one of you who read your poems. They were just incredible. You know what I was thinking when I was listening to the poems, that there was so much truth in these poems. And there's so much rhetoric out there in the world to just sit for an afternoon and listen to the wonderful truth, because it takes bravery to read poems that have truth in them. Next month is Lincoln's birthday, Washington's birthday, and we are having Mindy Cronenberg come here to read her poems. So please be here next month, and wonderful to see you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful, this was a very large group that we had. We had at 1.39 poets, which I think is a new record for us. So that's wonderful. Also, want to just thank everyone who participated. Bear in mind, we do this once a month. So if you have any feedback for us, please send me an email. And if you want to be on our mailing list for the events, send us an email, and wish everyone a glorious and wonderful day. Thank you, Barbara. And thank you, Kathy, for your leadership in making this happen. Be well, everybody. I will send out a link with a recording to this. Please share it with others, and we'll also post it as we do. Every time we do a reading, we post it on the All Souls website. Be well, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. Mwah.
Beautiful.
Ball back.